Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, you've undoubtedly heard of the Endangered Species Act, designed to prevent actions which would threaten the survival of a species in danger of going extinct. And that's fine. It's a fine thing to protect an individual species, but in today's crowded and highly technological world, it is simply not enough. It's really a platitude. We must protect entire ecosystems. The Endangered Species Act has often also been subject to ridicule, as single species have threatened the progress of large and important projects, such as the timber harvest in the western United States, halted by the spotted owl, and large hydroelectric projects in Tennessee, halted by a tiny 2 to 3 inch long fish called the snail dart. Rather than focusing on individual species, we need to focus on entire ecosystems for protection. We need a Sustainable Ecosystems Act. What is an ecosystem? It's just simply a science shorthand for nature writ large. And sustainability is a very important concept, meaning that an ecosystem can continue to exist and provide the same services today, or long into the future, that it provides today, and at the same rate, long into the future. So, do we need to really protect entire ecosystems? Is nature all that important? We know nature is beautiful, it's immense, it's powerful, but is it essential to our survival? The short answer is yes, and for 4 important reasons I'd like you to remember. Ecosystems provide us with breathable air, drinkable water, fertile soil able to produce edible food, and energy. How do they do that? Ecosystems produce breathable air via their plants. Plants photosynthesize in the sun, and as a byproduct, release oxygen into the atmosphere. It is the only source of the oxygen that we require for life. At the same time, plants take in carbon dioxide, keeping the levels of CO2 in the air to manageable amounts, and also the leaves on every plant are tiny little air exchange factories, taking in the pollutants that would otherwise remain in the air and contaminate it for us. Drinkable water. How do they do this? How do ecosystems provide drinkable water? Forested ecosystems are the heavy lifters in terms of producing clean, filtered water for us to drink. Forests allow rainfall to soak into the soil beneath the forest, where it's naturally filtered and stored over the long term as it slowly makes its way to a stream or a lake. We can tap that water directly with wells in the ground, or wait until it gets to a stream or lake to get it. Fertile soil. How do ecosystems produce this? Ecosystems, fertile soil is an ecosystem. Soil is not simply inorganic minerals like sand and clay. It is a living ecosystem consisting of many animals, bacteria, fungi, worms, and insects, all of which recycle the nutrients essential for plant growth. So soil is an essential ecosystem. And then energy. The energy we use today, fossil fuels, comes mostly from dead plants and animals that lived at one time, millions of years ago, in an ecosystem. So what can we do? What are the threats to the sustainable use of these 4 resources, and what are the solutions to those threats? For breathable air, the threats are the production of pollutants from burning fossil fuels that release air pollutants into the atmosphere. And deforestation, removing the trees that can cleanse the atmosphere of those pollutants. The solution? Prevent deforestation as much as possible, and whenever trees must be removed, replace them with other trees. Reduce our burning of fossil fuels by using them more efficiently, or switching to alternatives like solar and wind when possible. The threats to drinkable water. Simply removing the forest is going to remove the capacity of that land to absorb and soak in that water and filter it naturally. The solution? Prevent deforestation, save those forests. Impervious surfaces, things like concrete, pavement, roadways, parking lots, buildings, prevent rain from soaking into the ground. So if we can reduce those as well, or capture the runoff from storms so that it doesn't go directly into a stream carrying contaminants with it, but instead capture it and let it soak into the ground would be another solution. Fertile soil. The biggest threat to soil is erosion. Any soil that is unprotected by vegetation above it is subject to erosion when it rains. So keeping vegetation above the soil, whether it's living vegetation or dead, even dead vegetation, which is simply mulch on top of the soil, will help prevent erosion. And last, energy. Our biggest problem with sustainable energy use is that we burn it much too rapidly. We burn fossil fuels so fast today that we're going to burn through all of the fossil fuels in existence in less than 1,000 years. It took hundreds of millions of years for those fossil fuels to be produced. So the solution to that one is simply burn those fossil fuels at a slower rate by switching to alternatives, using them more efficiently. The alternatives, solar and wind, can provide more than enough energy to completely replace our use of fossil energies if we take the effort to incorporate them and develop them. So there are affordable solutions to these problems in each case. We know how to do this, and perhaps the best example to give you is New York City. New York City in 1997 began purchasing what now has reached a total of 150,000 acres of forested watershed for one purpose: to leave it sit there undisturbed. Why? Because it is the source of their drinking water. New York City residents do not drink filtered water. They drink non-filtered water brought straight from this forested ecosystem in New York State, saving them the expense of building enough filtration capacity for that large a city and that many people. We have no alternative, really. These natural ecosystems are essential. This is the only planet we know of that is habitable. Scientists are searching for others, but don't hold your breath. A Sustainable Ecosystems Act could protect ecosystems and nature. It could protect individual species, and it could protect and would protect the most important individual species, perhaps, and that is us, Homo sapiens. It would conserve our quality of life for the future, the long-term future, think children and grandchildren, by conserving the ecological services that we require and enjoy. Mr. Toastmaster.